Okay. Okay, everybody good? Hello Ride-On people. So you join me today on the second time I've ridden my good friend Brian's M1000R competition, the 200 plus horsepower carbon fibre beast of a naked bike. And I haven't ridden it for a while. I rode it when he first got it, and I really loved everything about it, except I found it vibrated too much, sent my hand to sleep a lot, and it was a real deal breaker for me, which is a shame because it was a bike I'd considered buying, and it really put me off. He said now it's done a few miles. I wonder if I can see how many miles it's done actually. Or perhaps not. Let's see, 5,000 miles now. Yeah, so now it's done 5,000 miles. He said it's smoothed out considerably. And so I'm kind of eager to ride it today and find out what my thoughts are. I've already been riding it at kind of, you know, slow speeds around town, 30, 40 miles an hour, stuck behind traffic, all that stuff. Now we're on some open sweepers so I can enjoy it a little bit more. And yeah, I'll let you know at the end of the vlog what I think about in terms of vibrations. But let's just remind you a little bit about the bike. It's got BST derived carbon fibre wheels. It's got M caliper blue coloured brakes on this, brake calipers. I can say that in terms of braking, this is the best bike I've ever ridden, bar none. Even better than the Street Fighter V4S in terms of brake modulation. The way this thing can stop is second to none. Engine wise, of course, it's an M-powered bike, so it's a super smooth, well fueled pussycat around town, and it is a beast if you open it up. So you know, what's not to like about the engine other than whether you can handle the vibes. The bars are very wide on this, and you know, it can really affect some people and not others in terms of the vibrations, and so it's really a personal thing. You've just got to try it and see whether it's an issue for you or not. Some people find it's an issue, some people don't. Maybe it's to do with how, you know, your wrist angle, how hard you're gripping the bars, what revs you're doing, what gear you're in, how long you're running at constant revs, that kind of thing. But for me, I was very disappointed because it was a real problem. I then rode the M1000XR competition, which I had on order for a while, and although that vibrated, it was nowhere near as bad, and I could quite happily kind of live with that, if you like. So it was just more on the R rather than the XR. They have different bars. The XR's bars are more kind of rubber mounted and more, you know, about touring, fast sport touring, if you like. This is just about, you know, getting from A to B with the biggest smile on your face that you can have, really. So that was the crux of the differentiator, the delta between the two models, if you like. And also there's, you know, being tall guy, there's more room, leg room and stuff, and ergonomically wise on the XR. I think looks, I really can't work out which one I prefer actually, the MR or the XR. I really like both of them in the black competition colours, contrasted with the, you know, bright graphics. It really is very nice. I do think next year's MR looks really cool colour wise. I really like the white aluminum matte. It's very, very classy, and I do like the split headlights. On first impression, seeing that, I was like, not sure. It's a bit Triumph, you know. I don't have a problem with the way the headlight looks on this. It's like an MV Brutale, but I think overall I do like split headlights, so they're very nice. And the reason why I wanted to ride this today is, you know, I wanted to see whether, you know, what his experience of it smoothing out is matched by my own experience of it, and also I wanted to see whether, you know, my GS has been a bit sickly. It's kind of given me 3 problems recently, and if that continues, then I'll be trading that, you know, at some point. And even though availability is very poor on the M models at the moment, we're not going to see any till next year, going by what dealers are telling me. There's a few options there, really. You know, I could trade the GS for an XR because I can loosely tour on that solo on a long weekend, and I can, or I could potentially trade it for one of these, an M1000R competition, and maybe have a more sedate winter stroke touring bike, something like a Triumph Tiger 800 Sport that's forthcoming. The only fly in the ointment there, I think, is I think as soon as you buy one, they're going to announce an RS model, aren't they? Because the 800 they've announced for 25 is essentially the same sort of performance figures as, thank you, same sort of performance figures as you know, a Street Triple R, for instance, and then the RS has another, you know, 15 horsepower and Brembo monoblocks, and, you know, no lens rear shock, and really that's what you want to see in the Tiger 800 Sport. So, but we got EICMA coming up. EICMA's probably just about happen by the time this video goes live, and it'd be interesting to see, you know, who announces what at EICMA. We know Ducati with the Modstrada has got auto lowering suspension front and rear, and cylinder deactivation on the rear, and also the front suspension now talks to the rear, so if the front suspension hits a bump, the rear already knows whether to, you know, increase damping or loosen it off type thing. And so that's always an option as well, going back to a multi. It's a good reliable bike now, and the latest tweaks seem, you know, really promising. I know that Yamaha have also tweaked the Tracer as well. The Tracer 900 now gets matrix headlights. It's a bit complicated to explain matrix headlights. I suggest you look at a YouTube video as to what matrix headlights are, but it's next level. It's not, you know, it's beyond just auto high beams. It'll effectively leave your lights on permanent high beam or main beam, and it'll just change the distance on a pixelation basis depending on what it considers another vehicle that's oncoming. That's probably the easiest way to explain it. So that's going to be interesting, and it gets a triple stacked headlight in a dual flashing each side, three sets of headlights each side, which is a bit weird looking, and it's going to divide opinions, like the headlights on the GS13 or the side panels and pannier racks on the Adventure, for instance. But yeah, interesting stuff. Now, last time I rode down some twisty roads like that in a spirited fashion on this bike, my hand was already completely asleep. It was just, you know, I was done. I was having to really wring out my hands. At the moment, I'm just feeling a couple of slight tingles at the very tip of my index finger. So we'll see how that goes as the ride progresses. I can say you know, I've got Brian behind me on my Street Triple RS, and differentiating the two, other than cost, which is like, you know, this is costs twice as much. I can say that this has better ride quality. The electronic suspension on this is exceptionally good, whereas it's obviously manual but with an Ohlins rear shock on the RS. The other thing is these brakes, as I mentioned, are just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And but on the negative side of things, the seat is much firmer, it's much harder. The bars are slightly unnecessarily wide on this, slightly too wide. I've never ever said that about a bike before, but I think they're a little bit wider than they need to be. They could also do with being like half an inch higher. I guess you could always get some risers or something, which would be useful. And they both sound nice, you know. The Street Triple's got that lovely triple sound which you can't beat, but this sounds, you know, when you wind this up, this sounds like a Formula 1 car. It screams, and it's and both are very nice at lowish revs as well. I think this is particularly nice at low revs because it's inline 4. Inline 4s are always smooth. It's the secondary vibes that are hard to kind of cancel out, but in terms of an engine design, it's hard to beat an inline 4 for manufacturing and making good power at a reasonable weight for the power plant. What they usually lack is a bit of character, and you know, that's something that a twin will always be better regarding. But overall, you know, if you like inline 4s, or you want an inline 4 that has a little bit of character, this is a good choice. I wouldn't say this is boring and clinical and sterile like most inline 4s. It's not a perfect bike, but it's pretty perfect in terms of where you want it, you know, in terms of its handling and grip and its braking and its looks. They're all real key things that make you want to ride the bike and then enjoy it when you do ride it. The other thing I would say is that I hit a couple of gravel patches, and the traction control is very sophisticated. It will let the bike slide a fair bit in actual fact, but it brings it all back in a very smooth and linear fashion. You know, sometimes you know, traction control can be very abrupt on a lot of modern bikes, where it's like on off, and yeah, sure, it saves you bacon, which is fantastic. That's its job, and why I would sooner have a bike that's only got traction control rather than ABS if I can only have one. But this is very smooth and linear, and as long as you're okay with the bike moving around a bit, it will just you know, bring itself back in line. But it does it in a very smooth way that doesn't upset the chassis, and that's really important. Not for a general, you know, naked road bike, but it's really important when you're at kind of like knee down angles. If you're that aggressive on the road or you track ride, if that back end goes, you know, when you're kind of knee down or close to the limit, you want the traction to be buttery smooth in the way in which it saves your ass. And this does a very good job of that. It's a very nice. So I would say that in some ways this is more comfortable than Street Triple in terms of like the ride quality, but I think ergonomically it's less comfortable. It's more of a bend over to the bars, and it's a wider stretch on the bars, so that's kind of less comfortable, if you like. But you know, we're talking small degrees. Overall, it's still very good. You know, for a naked bike, of course, it's no armchair. It's not going to be like a Goldwing or something like that. But you already know that already, right? You know, that's not why you're buying this sort of bike. Would I buy it over a non M model. I wouldn't personally, because you know, I'm fortunate enough to have the means to buy an M model if I choose to, and you know, for me it's worth it for the lower unsprung weight of the carbon fibre wheels, the good looks of the carbon, and the machined billet parts, like the grips and the levers and stuff, and the kudos, I suppose, for what it's worth. And just because when I open the garage door I look at it and think, yeah, that's really special, that's really nice, and you know, I'm a very lucky boy in first world problems, you know, owning something that, you know, most people couldn't afford or couldn't justify owning. That's just me, you know. Is it worth it? That's on you, really, isn't it? You know, do you love the looks so much more than a standard S, and also over the M, right? You know, so it's good what BMW have done. They've given a very usable 170 horsepower S model that is more than enough for most people on the road, and you know, that's a perfectly fantastic bike. And you can, if you put a good rider on it, and you can probably ride as fast as somebody on one of these, right? But if you really want the extra power, if you're doing track days, or you just, you know, like to know you got it, or you will use it on occasion, you know, get the M. And if you've got you know, deeper pockets and you can stretch to it and you can justify it and you really want it, you know, the competition is obviously the top dog. You know, don't get any better. It's like buying a Ducati R model, and yeah, it's good. So I can say that you know, I'm not sure how far I'm into this ride at the moment. I'll have to hand the keys back to him when we get to the coffee shop. But I would say at the moment, if I change my mind, I'll do a little VT at the end. But at the moment, what I'm feeling is that are there still vibes? Yes, absolutely, especially around the kind of 4,000 revs mark, which is a sort of revs that you'll often be using on the road. But having said that, would I say that it's smoothed out over the 5,000 miles? Yeah, I would say so. It definitely feels smoother, and I have way less vibes in my hand. I've still felt some vibes in my hand and through the tank and a little bit through the foot pegs, and the mirrors still buzz slightly. You know, you can see what's behind you fairly clearly, but it's not crystal clear. So they're definitely there. But could I live with it? Yeah, I think I could. I think most bikes at some point or other, you're going to get some vibration or a numb hand. It's just a combination of things: speed, revs, gear, and so forth. But this, very tractable, very smooth, you know, doing nearly 4,000 revs at top gear, 50 miles an hour. It's, you know, it's effortless. It's got loads of bags of roll-on torque. It's got gearing which accentuates the acceleration, and it's super easy to go super fast on it in high level of safety. This will flatter an average rider and make them look like a really good rider, I think. But overall, yeah, a much better impression than my first impression on this bike. And could I buy one and live with one? Yes. Do I think it's worth twice what the Street Triple RS is? I don't think so. The Triumph is spectacular value for money. Is it a better bike? In many ways, yes. Ride quality is much better. Engine's much more powerful. You know, dripping with carbon fibre. It's a very good bike. So really, ultimately, it depends how much disposable income you've got, how much desire you have for a naked bike, how much you want the top dog or not. But currently, you know, if you want the most and you want the BMW and you want the most, this is the mostest. Which I think is better, this or an XR? Probably the XR, I have to say, but maybe some of that is just because I'm 6'2" and I prefer the ergonomics. But this is very, very good. I could live with this. In terms of competition, of course, you've got the KTM 1390 now, Super Duke Beast, and you've got the Ducati Street Fighter V4S, and and arguably the Trono factory in that. And out of those, I would say, if you want a sport tourer, buy the Trono. If you want to pop wheelies all day long and you don't, you're not that worried about the fit and finish, you just want something that's aggressive and torquey, buy the KTM. And if you want something that looks refined and polished and slick and still makes ridiculous power, you want the BMW. Simple as that. That's the real differences. Alright, just thought I'd give you feedback on my views on the bike now, and hopefully if you're thinking about buying one, that might give you some food for thought. Ultimately, it's the sort of bike I would say, if you can get a test ride, even on the standard S or an M, do it before laying down, around $30,000 for this truly exotic machine. Alright guys, have a good one. Sayonara.